Hello everyone, I am Dr. Diksha Pandey, Professor in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and I am also the in charge of Subdivision of Urogynecology at KMC Manipal. Today, continuing the previous series, we are presenting the second case of the series, and to present it, we have with us Dr. Priya Patel, who is the second year postgraduate in our department. And to moderate the case, I am very happy to introduce Dr. Richa Choksi, who is an assistant professor in our department. So, if you are ready, can you start, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Today, I'll be presenting a case of Mistress A, a 61-year-old female hailing from Udupi, homemaker, postmenopausal for the past 20 years. She's para for living for all previous vaginal deliveries, presented to us with the complaints of mass per vagina since 2 months and also complaints of spotting PV since 8 days. History of presenting illness. Mass per vagina was gradually progressive in nature and it subsided when lying down and progressed throughout the day as she carried on her work. Her routine does not include any weightlifting or strenuous exercise or heavy work. She also gives history of increased frequency in micturition and occasional burning micturition. Coming to the spotting PV, she had 2 episodes of spotting PV, one episode 8 days ago and second one 2 days ago. She also gives history of weight loss, not associated with loss of appetite, which she couldn't quantify, and she said that the dress or the blouse was getting loose over the 3 to 6 months. Mass was not bothering her much, but she was alarmed by the spotting PV, for which she wanted to consult a doctor.
So here, I think if I have to summarize, she presented with a mass per vagina and postmenopausal bleeding.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think are the causes, or just want to know if a lady presents with postmenopausal bleeding, what are the causes that come to your mind?
Ma'am, the most common cause of postmenopausal bleeding is senile endometritis or vaginitis. But what is more worrisome in this age group is malignancies. It could be cervical, because in India that is the most common cause, or endometrial carcinoma in this age group can also be seen.
What other causes can you think of?
Ma'am, other causes, there can be a polyp arising from the cervical or the endometrial cavity. She can be on women who are on hormonal replacement therapy also present to us with postmenopausal bleeding, like tamoxifen. And any rare cause, but any IUCD in situ, forgotten IUCD, or any foreign body inside the vaginal cavity or the endometrial cavity can also present with postmenopausal bleeding. Prolapse.
So the foreign body here will be
IUCD, yes ma'am. And decubitus ulcer in a prolapse case can also present with postmenopausal bleeding. Another cause is endometrial hyperplasia can also present to us with
Any cause? Any other cause you can think of?
Not very common, but any estrogen secreting ovarian tumors can also cause bleeding in this age group.
So for the sake of viewers, let me just summarize the list. Priya has told almost, I think Richa, she has completed the list. But let me summarize. If somebody asks you what are the causes of postmenopausal bleeding, or if a lady comes to you with a postmenopausal bleeding, what are the things you will be thinking of? So as you said correctly, cervical cancer in India we have to think first. Then endometrial cancer and atrophic changes of the entire genital tract. It can happen anywhere. Then we have to also think of hyperplasias and polyps. Polyps we have seen sometimes even in endometrium and also in the cervix, which are the cause of postmenopausal bleeding. They are good because they are the benign causes, but we have to think about it. Then we have to think about hormone replacement therapy. We have to take history, forgotten IUCD, and if by chance patient is a breast cancer patient, and by chance if she is on tamoxifen therapy, she will think that both are unrelated problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you have to remember that tamoxifen therapy can be a cause of postmenopausal bleeding. Then to last but not the least causes, that decubitus ulcer with the prolapse and estrogen secreting ovarian tumor. So these are the 10 causes for postmenopausal bleeding you have to always keep in mind. So go ahead.
Coming to the more history, she's married for 48 years. She's currently not sexually active, and she has 4 children. First one was a home delivery, and the rest 3 were hospital deliveries. There was no complication during the vaginal births in the 4 deliveries. Her last childbirth was 33 years ago, and she's sterilized. Medical history. She's not a known case of diabetes mellitus or hypertension, or she does not give any history of any cardiac disease and ischemic heart disease. No history of cough or asthma or constipation.
Okay.
Surgical history. She underwent mini laparotomy 33 years ago for tubal sterilization.
In medical history, I think it is also important to ask for orthopedic problems, isn't it? Because those are can be related to the prolapse, or they can hamper the recovery from the management after you manage those women.
She gives no history of arthritis, any neuromuscular disorders.
So you have asked that.
She's not
So I'm
a known
happy.
case of Parkinson's.
But when you ask it, you
yes,
have to tell it all. So I'm
yes.
sure that you have asked, but you forgot to mention.
Yes.
Okay.
Family history, there is no history of gynecological malignancies in the family.
So this case, we have to see a few important points. First is she's postmenopausal. Second, she's presenting with mass per vagina, but her history is short.
Yes,
That is just
2
2
months.
months history. Then there is history of weight loss, which is over 3 to 6 months, and there is postmenopausal bleeding, which she has 2 episodes for just 2 days. Okay, so we have to investigate the patients based on these history points.
Yes.
So what are the things, what are you thinking when you are saying postmenopausal bleeding and you are saying short history of prolapse specifically? So usually the history of prolapse will be over the years, okay? It's very rare that prolapse happens in 2 months. One thing is, but we don't want to say it as that patient did not bother about it, so she did not tell, and she just wants to tell you that it was a short history. But more alarming cause of short presentation of prolapse.
Malignancy, ma'am. Like
Okay.
sudden increase in the abdominal cavity pressure.
Very good.
Any mass occluding,
Occluding? What occluding? Mass?
causing
Any
the
mass
increase.
causing increase in the intra-abdominal pressure, which will the prolapse will become more evident.
Evident. Or any ascites
Yes.
may cause this change in pressure.
So there could be medical reasons, or there could be surgical
Surgical
reasons.
reasons.
So even in chest, if the patient has recently, though you have told, but again we have to keep it in mind, okay? We have to ask if that kind of, we have to rule out even lung malignancy, we have to rule out abdominal malignancy, we have to rule out ovarian malignancy, and other, as Dr. Richa rightly said, that even medical complications which are increasing the ascites can precipitate symptoms of prolapse suddenly.
So, coming to the examination, this patient's general condition appeared fair, and her BMI was 23.3 kg per meter square. Gait was normal, and there was no lymph node enlargement seen.
Which lymph node?
I examined the supraclavicular lymph node, ma'am, to see. if
That's
there's
the
any-
most important. I'll repeat it again, that in any lady who is old and if she comes to a urogynecological clinic, I think it's our responsibility that for a disease which is not killing, we should not be missing a disease which can be a killer.
Yes.
Okay, so always, and in this patient it becomes more important because we are actually suspecting some malignancy or sudden change.
Vitals were stable. Cardiovascular system showed no abnormality. Respiratory system, bilateral normal vesicular breath sounds were present. There were no added sounds. Per abdomen, abdomen was soft, non-tender. There was no mass palpable or any free fluid noted in the abdominal cavity. The postpartum sterilization scar was healthy. On inspection, there was a 5 into 4 centimeter mass protruding through the genital hiatus, where cervical os was visualized. Erosions were present. A small 1 into 0.5 centimeter decubitus ulcer was noted on the anterior cervical lip. There was no active bleeding seen.
So erosion in this age group.
Ma'am, it is not common to see cervical erosions which are normal in this age group because the squamocolumnar junction resides back into the endocervical canal as the age progresses.
So even presence of erosion, which we would have thought as a normal thing in a prolapsed lady, if she was young,
Yes.
okay, that is no more. We have to think of like what's wrong in her.
Yes, ma'am. Cough impulse was present in this lady and there was no stress urinary incontinence noted. On palpation, external os was in mid position, cervix was firm in consistency and there was no indivation noted. Cervix appeared to be elongated and ulcer did not bleed on touch. Pap smear was taken as the cervix was outside the vagina.
Okay, so let me pause you here and tell the viewers that in India still we are just doing opportunistic screening for cervical cancer. So many women, when they come to us for the first, they have never gone to any doctor or gone their cervical cancer screening by pap smear done. So did you take this history? Had she undergone pap smear testing?
No, ma'am. She had no previous visits to hospital after her birth,
Deliveries.
after her sterilization. So there
It was
was
never
never
taken. So it
taken
is a very
first.
important point to be noted that usually when we are suspecting a malignancy and if we see a growth in examination, what we have to do, we have to take a biopsy.
Yes.
But as you said that cervix was looking not abnormal and there was no growth or no area which you suspected to be malignant and correct to take biopsy. So you took pap
Pap
smear
smear.
because pap smear was never taken. from
Never
her.
taken.
At least it will help to pick up some cells
Yes.
if they are malignant.
Mass was deposited back into the vagina and perspeculum examination was conducted. There was a mild cystocele noted in the anterior vaginal wall and vaginal rugosity was present. Mild enterocele was seen on the posterior vaginal wall and no rectocele was noted. On coughing, she had a third-degree descent. On bimanual examination, uterus was noted to be small and retroverted. Bilateral fornices were free, no tenderness was seen, and uterus was mobile. Levator ini tone was grade 0 and perineal body measure 2 into 2 cm.
How did you examine for the levator ani tone?
Ma'am, 2 fingers were placed into the vaginal cavity and the patient was asked to squeeze, ma'am. And the grading was noted based on the modified Oxford scaling.
Can you elaborate the scaling?
Grade 0 is lack of any response. Grade 1 is mild contraction. Grade 2 is contraction present and the anterior vaginal wall is pushed up. And grade 3 is moderate contraction and more bulge is seen in the anterior wall. Whereas grade 4 is satisfactory and grade 5 the vaginal contraction is strong enough to lift your finger up.
Okay, so it is a
Subjective scaling. And per rectal examination ruled out rectocele.
What?
The examination was completed by doing POPQ labs.
Okay, so what are your findings?
Ma'am, A point in the anterior vaginal wall was +1. The B point in the anterior vaginal wall was +3. The cervix measured +3.5 cm. Genital hiatus was 6 cm. Perineal body was 2.5 cm. Total vaginal length measured -8 cm. The A point in the posterior wall was -3 cm. The B point in the posterior wall was -1 cm. The D point was -7 cm.
What is your interpretation?
Ma'am, the most positive finding here was the cervix, which was +3.5 cm, which comes under stage 3. And also there was a lot of difference between the C point and the D point.
So what does
So it leads to, like, it is more towards cervical elongation than descent, ma'am,
So
because
C point is outside, it is +3.
Yes, ma'am,
Whereas the D point is
still
deep
inside 7.
So does this grid or what Dr. Richa said, does it correspond to your PV finding also? Was there cervical elongation?
Yes, ma'am, there was cervical elongation. The pouch of Douglas was deep.
Deep, and you could feel that rod-like structure
ma'am.
going inside.
Yes.
Okay. So, how do you want to summarize it for the sake of understanding it better? Just tell little history, what you got in examination.
Yes, ma'am. She's a postmenopausal lady, para 4 living 4, with all previous vaginal deliveries, who presented with complaints of mass by vagina and spotting PV since 8 days. She did not give any complaints of difficulty in passing urine or evacuation of bowel, and she gives history of weight loss, which was not associated with a loss of appetite. On examination, she had cervical elongation and a decubitus ulcer was noted, which was not actively bleeding, but there was a 3rd degree UV descent.
So based on your history and examination, it appears to be defect of the central compartment and the anterior
Anterior compartment. Yes.
So, how will you manage her?
Ma'am, she's a old lady, postmenopausal for past 20 years, who is not sexually active. So, vaginal hysterectomy with anterior.
Very good. But management
Okay.
includes investigations also.
Yes.
So tell me, do you want to? So I keep on repeating this, and I want to repeat it again today. For confirmation of prolapse,
Yes. Ma'am.
okay, examination is enough, and POPK is more than enough. So we do not need any kind of investigation to confirm prolapse in a clinical setting. Research is a different ballgame. So clinical examination, if it has said that it is prolapse and the compartmental defect you have told, we agree. But yes, this lady needs some other investigations. What for?
Ma'am, she actually needs, the basic investigation would be ultrasound examination to rule out any tumors or malignancies and
Because she
endometrial.
is presented with postmenopausal bleeding.
Yes, ma'am. And measure the endometrial thickness, which will also suggest us and rule out endometrial hyperplasia.
And maybe some ovarian tumors, some ascites, which cannot be made out by clinical examination.
examination. Yes,
That you
ma'am.
can make out by an ultrasound
And
examination.
chest X-ray can also be
Very
done
good.
to rule out any secondary lung mets or a lung pathology, primary lung pathology.
But
And
we have a limitation as a gynecologist how much we can auscultate each and every
Yes,
compartment. So we have to understand it, and better not to miss anything. Better to do one investigation extra if you have doubt.
yes, ma'am. And we'll wait for the pap smear report which we have taken
Yes, very good.
before going ahead with the surgery, because if it comes positive, then we might have to take additional measures.
So you said that decubitus ulcer was there and prolapse was just outside, and not much of defect was there on the anterior compartment and central compartment defect. Do you want to try pelvic floor muscle training?
No, ma'am. Because her levator renal tone was already grade 0, I don't think any
Very
pelvic training
So
helps.
this is a very important point. That's why we assess levator and I told that if we try pelvic floor muscle training for this patient, it is not
Not
going to help.
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you think about the pessaries? Can they
Uh,
help?
It will help, ma'am. We can give her an option of pessary for healing of the decubitus ulcer, but I would like to.
So would you send the
advise her
patient
for
if
surgery.
for give a symptomatic relief, you'll send the patient with a vaginal pessary?
No,
This
ma'am.
patient?
This patient requires more follow-up because she gives significant history of loss of weight, and there's also postmenopausal
So
bleeding.
you want
so
to
we have
evaluate her, you
evaluate
have to rule out endometrial carcinoma, cervical
yes, ma'am.
carcinoma, and then go for the final management.
And very important because already you said that she has never visited a doctor, she has never come. Now also she's telling 2 months history of prolapse, which is a little unlikely. So in case if you give her a pessary and she's
Yeah.
happy there, she will
She'll
never
not
come
come.
back. Okay, so we might be missing out some important things. So don't treat her. Let her have 1 or 2 spotting, but let her come back.
Yes, true, ma'am.
Okay.
Agar surgically vaginal
So once
hysterectomy-
everything is sorted out. Now there is too much discussion, or too many people think that we should not unnecessarily remove the uterus. Okay, and moreover this patient has cervical elongation. So if there is cervical elongation, even just amputation of cervix might be of help
Yes.
with tightening of ligaments. What's that called?
for the gills operation.
Okay, so that also might be helpful.
So
But for this,
this patient is, do you feel you would want to do for the gills repair for this patient?
Like we would wait at least until everything is ruled
After
out.
that, if you know the other patient,
All
blood
investigations will
normal.
come normal. No sign of
So now you have a
malignancy.
patient with central compartment, anterior compartment defect with which is
Yes,
cervical elongation.
Ma'am, because of her age and because of her tone being so weak, she might come to us later with another prolapse if we just amputate the cervix.
And one more important thing, see, whatever best of the investigations we do, maybe we have done ultrasound and seen endometrial thickness, there is a chance, there is a small chance that we might be missing some focal malignancy, okay, somewhere. So unnecessary when you are doing, if you are not doing surgery, then it's okay, you can keep her on follow-up. When you are doing, you are taking her to OT, doing a big surgery, so you can always go for hysterectomy, explain it to the patient.
Postmenopausal
Also bleeding.
status and postmenopausal bleeding.
Bleeding specifically, then I don't think there is any fun in keeping the uterus inside in our circumstances because patients
Patient
won't
will not
come for
come for
follow-up. Okay. And then what surgery you want to do for her?
With
Hysterectomy you said, which
the
hysterectomy?
anterior corpus.
Anterior corporate. Anything else?
The enterocele was very mild, ma'am, so she might not require, and there was no rectocele, so she might not require
So
posterior
enterocele
treatment.
might be taken care of when we are doing hyperitonisation or apical suspension. But you said that perineum was small.
Yeah, perineal reflux
Reflux,
can also be
yeah.
done.
So we have to do today, the world is moving from everything as a blanket treatment towards more specific compartment wise. That's why it is so important that you check what all compartments are defective and treat accordingly.
Yes.
Okay. So then only you cannot just do vaginal hysterectomy and come out. So you have to see where all defects are there and you have to repair those defects. Then anything else? Something you tell about cervical elongation. Recently, Richa, we are seeing more of know that we are seeing more and more of cervical elongation cases. So, what are the things you will keep in mind in this particular case while you are operating?
Ma'am, when there is a cervical elongation, that means that it is high up. So when we are considering vaginal
High up
hysterectomy,
means internal oscillation.
internal os is up.
What will be the causes of cervical elongation?
Ma'am, cervical elongation suggests that the upper part of the uterus is held tightly back and
In this patient, the patient being postmenopausal, presenting with cystocele, enterocele, there is cervical elongation. We would have expected uterovaginal prolapse,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
here the patient is presenting with cervical elongation.
it can be due to adhesions, ma'am, in
Yes.
the abdominal cavity, which is holding back the uterus, and the cervix is being pulled down, and
So
there has
can
been
you suspect some adhesion which is pulling this uterus up, holding this
In
uterus
this
up?
patient.
In this patient.
Ma'am, she's undergone a surgery.
What surgery?
She's undergone a mini laparotomy for her tubal ligation.
So PPS, we think that it is such a small procedure, but trust me that the worst kind of adhesions I have seen are with PPS. Do you agree with me, Richa? Big surgeries, patient will not have such bad adhesions, but PPS is one in my practice I have seen. We always think that, oh, just one PPS, but you open the worst kind of adhesions are with PPS. Do you know why? I have a hypothesis. Because maybe in the unit who is the youngest person in the unit goes for PPS, and I don't want to say more than this. And this has been our experience that the worst kind of adhesions you will get in a patient with PPS. So either it is some surgery. Any other case? Richard, tell about that case we had last.
So either there could be congenital elongation, that also we have seen, or in cases where there is a large fibroid uterus or mass involving the uterus, which is growing into the abdomen. So it is pulling the internal os up into the abdomen.
So we recently had a case. Usually when I was postgraduate, I remember, there were some dictums. I don't know where I read or who taught me all this. Maybe I read it somewhere. I don't want to blame anybody. And then some things were like, we used to say that prolapse won't occur if there are fibroids in the uterus. And then we said that I read maybe somewhere that if there is a cancer, prolapse uterus will not have cervical cancer. But now we are seeing all these cases, like maybe those women were not coming to the hospital that time. But in recent I think 3-4 years, I have seen 3 to 4 cases of prolapse with cervical cancer. So you should not think that these things do not coexist. And the other thing, we were surprised actually, that is a kind of publication kind of case, that it was above umbilicus. That uterus was so big.
Mhm.
She was not a menopausal lady, but her uterus was around 32 week size, and her full cervix was outside. So all these things happen. So what are the problems? Coming back to your question, that what are the problems you anticipate when you are doing surgery? That's why we need to know. We need to identify that it is a case of cervical elongation, so that you are prepared.
Yes.
That what difficulties you can have.
One, we can anticipate additions, and second, the incision has to be high up to open the UV fold.
Very good.
Then,
Otherwise, you will
case.
keep on dissecting the
Dissect.
cervical plane, and you will not be able to open the pouches. So both anterior as well as posterior pouches, depending on, like in this patient, maybe more difficult will be to open the posterior pouch because little cystocele is still there. But usually, many a times, both the pouches are quite high up. And
Thank you, Priya. You did a good job. So to summarize in the end, to summarize the case, we have para 4 living 4, all vaginal deliveries, postmenopausal women with history of postmenopausal bleeding and history of mass per vaginum for 2 to 3 months, and a short history of weight loss for 3 to 6 months. Now, on examination, this patient presents with cervical elongation and cystocele. So there is defect in the central compartment and the anterior compartment. So the plan of management for this patient will be vaginal hysterectomy with anterior colporrhaphy with pelvic floor repair. But before that, we will rule out the causes of postmenopausal bleeding. We'll do some investigations to rule out cervical and endometrial carcinoma.
I think it summarizes the case very well, and you presented very well, Priya. Okay, and Richa moderated quite good. So with this, I hope these kind of case discussions which we do randomly helps you to understand some cases in urogynecology, and soon we'll come back with another interesting case for you. Till then, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Keep
you.
watching.
Do subscribe to our channel, Urogynecology.